All right, talk to Ingrith Icefell on the steps and say that you want to go to the mountain summit. Before we start Fire and Thunder Peak, I'd like to know everybody's experience level with this raid. If you're here, if you're one of the signups, if you're new to this raid, first timer, or you've done it before and are still learning it, if you could write that in party chat. Anybody watching never done Fire and Thunder Peak before? Wow, so we got 3 first timers. This is awesome. Okay, well, this is a quick pug-friendly raid and a quick source of threads of fate. Go ahead and step in. We're just like the last one. We're going to do it on Elite. We'll have no problem with it because this is a very old raid. This came out when the level cap was 28, and both this raid and Temple of the Deathworm came out at the same time. Back in 2014. This raid can actually be soloed. There is a mechanic where like the dragons can't be DPS'd if they're together, but that mechanic seems to be inconsistent. So like sometimes you can come in here and DPS them when they're together, and sometimes you can't. I honestly haven't been able to figure out exactly what the reason for that. Sometimes they seem to be able to be DPS'd when they're together, and sometimes they can't. They're not supposed to be, but something must have changed over the years. And due to spaghetti code, they can actually be DPS sometimes when they're together. In any event, the reason why you want, there's 2 dragon bosses, and the reason why you want 2 tanks is because you want to keep the dragons separated, because they're, you know, they're supposed to be basically invincible when they're together. All right, so this is the whole zone. This is it. The whole raid is just this football field here. Notice that there's an artifact in the center, the Dwarven artifact that's shooting a light to the sky. Once we click on the artifact, that will start the raid, and the 2 huge red dragon bosses will come down. Their names are Thoraxata and Navaralich. We affectionately call them Fatty and Skinny to differentiate them, because that's a lot easier to remember than Thoraxata and Navaralich. In any event, we're going to have a tank on each side, kind of hold them off in the corner. And we're going to alternate DPSing between the dragons, because the dragons can only be DPS down so much before they become invulnerable. When they are invulnerable and can't be DPSed anymore, their skin will turn like, will look like lava. So you'll hear people call out, you know, they'll say, you know, like South Dragon, you know, South Magma, every DPS North. And so the DPS crew will switch to the North Dragon. You might have crews on each dragon separately, but, you know, like I said, one dragon will become invincible, so you usually just move back and forth. It's whatever. This raid is so much easier than it used to be back in the day. So we'll just DPS the dragons back and forth, and then at one point, one of the dragons will fly off, and another point, they'll both fly off. Then at that point, 2 huge magma elementals will appear, and they're called like the Volcanic Devastator and the Volcanic Annihilator or something like that. We're going to beat those down, no big deal. Just bring everything into one big pile, all the trash and those guys too. We'll beat those down. The dragons return. There's going to be trash spawning the whole time. Trash doesn't spawn until like the first round of dragon beatdowns. So you're going to want to have like a couple people assigned to trash duty. And then everybody else is dragon DPS except for the 2 tanks. Once the dragons reach 50% health, we don't DPS the dragons anymore. At that point, the artifact will become vulnerable. There's going to be a force field around it up to that point. But when the dragons reach 50% health, the artifact will become vulnerable. The force field will disappear, and we can DPS the artifact. We can DPS the artifact. Well, it used to be like 20%, and then the force field would come up, and then we'd have to you know, just wait a minute, and then the force field would come down. 20% damage, force field comes back up, and so you'd go through 5 iterations of that to beat down the artifact. But people are doing so much DPS now that big shots can actually DPS it past its 20% threshold. Once the artifact is destroyed, it will explode. I encourage you to be kissing the artifact when it explodes, because I want you to see how much damage it does, so that you can see whether or not you can survive it, so that you don't experience that in a pug and wonder, why did you suddenly die? Because Voodoo didn't explain that to us. I want you to see that it does damage, and I want you to see how much damage it does. But normally you would want to be far away from the artifact when it was going to go down. So like during the final beatdown, melees wouldn't want to beat it down. You would just want to have the range beat it down because it's going to explode. But for purposes of our teaching raid, I would prefer that you are right there next to the artifact so you can experience what that's like. Once the artifact is destroyed, the dragons can be killed. One of the sort of mistakes that people will make in this raid is that they will continue to DPS the dragons during the artifact phase. That is pointless. In fact, it's counterproductive. First of all, because when the artifact is destroyed, it doesn't matter what health the dragons are at. They will both instantly go to like 5 or 10% health, no matter what health they had. So there's no point in beating the dragons down while we're beating on the artifact because they're going to drop to 10% health anyways. And the second reason is if you're DPSing the dragons during that phase, you can pull the aggro off of the tanks. And, you know, if you're pulling the aggros of these dragons around, these dragons, well, historically, they did a lot of damage on higher, you know, on elite. And they can, well, even today, they do a lot of damage because they get a huge buff called Artifact Overdraw. And they do a lot of damage. In fact, I'm going to get you guys in front of the dragons during that phase so you can see how hard they hit. You know, those dragons are running around loose. They can start one-shotting people. So, you know, once we get to that point where it's artifact time, don't even DPS the dragons anymore until the artifact is destroyed. When the artifact is destroyed, we kill the dragons. Like I said, they will drop to 10% health. Once both the dragons are dead, we win. And before we get started, we'll show you a little Easter egg. If you follow me over to this corner, you'll see that there's a hidden snowman over here. It's kind of a gag amongst the devs, or at least it was at one time, to hide snowmen throughout the game. So if you come over here where I am and you look over the wall and you jump, you'll see there's a snowman over there. It's just a little funsy thing. It has no relevance to the raid other than just being a little funny. See the snowman over there on the other side of the wall? Okay, Gijo, do you have a preference on the dragon that you do?
Either is fine.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and take the south dragon. Or no, you take the north dragon, I'll do south dragon. I'm going to reach out and touch the artifact. That locks the raid. No one will be able to enter the raid at that point. So never come in here and start the raid until everybody's in. Trash has specific spawn points. Like some of it will come out of the cave in the center, in the back. And then others like on the left and right of the entrance. Let's have Soul Mind on Trash and maybe Hand-like Feet on Trash as well. Soul Mind and Hand-like Feet on Trash. Everybody else is Dragon DPS. We're just going to pull the dragons to our respective corners. Because like I said earlier, if the dragons are together, if they're too close, they can't be DPS'd. But there is a bug or something where they can be DPS'd when they're together sometimes. As I said earlier, I'm not really sure exactly why that is.
Magma?
North is Magma, and... oh, they're taking their little...
well, it was for a second.
Yeah, we're DPS them down so fast compared to years ago. Okay, North flew away, so Dragon DPS South. If you block when the dragon's doing its SWAT attack, then you won't... South is Magma, DPS North. Then you won't get knocked down by it. It's a knockdown effect. You can also block during the wing buffet, and then you won't get knocked back. Okay, dragons are taking off. The Volcanic Annihilator and Devastator are coming out. Just bring everything into a pile and blow it up. Historically, when it came to Trash, we would just kite the Magma Brutes around because they had so many hit points. It wasn't really much point in killing them. because they just respawn, but, you know, they're not that hard to beat down now, so it's up to the trash people whether or not you want to kite them or kill them. When it comes to trash, the goal is mitigating the numbers, because you're trying to avoid a red dungeon alert. So try to kill the weakest stuff first, because again, we want to keep the numbers down so we're not triggering dungeon alerts. All right, go ahead and DPS south, Dragon DPS south. Lock the SWAT. So now we're taking the dragons down to 50. So South Dragon is Magma, DPS North. DPS North is now at 50. No more Dragon DPS until the artifact is destroyed. Everybody but the 2 tanks is on artifact and trash only. Everybody but the 2 tanks is artifact and trash only. This is the part where I said there is no point in DPS in the dragons, but you will see pugs do it all the time. It's actually counterproductive and does not help in any way, shape, or form, because when the artifact is destroyed, they will both automatically go to 10% health, regardless of how much health they have. So there's no point in like prepping the dragons, because they're going to fall to 10% anyways. And this is the point in which they have a huge artifact overdraw buff, so I want the new players to experience what that feels like. So right now, my dragon, Navaralich, in the south has it. You can examine her, and there's like a little fairy fire symbol. It says artifact overdraw, 400% damage. I want the new players to get in front of the south dragon right now and feel what she feels like. New players, come down to my dragon. I want you to see what that artifact overdraw feels like. Because even though this is an old raid, she still hits pretty damn hard at this point in the raid. Again, I'm not trying to troll you guys. I just want you to realize like how hard they hit at this point of the raid, so that you don't go into a pug of this raid and go, oh damn, why are they suddenly hitting so hard? And in the phase before this, they had an artifact rage buff where they do 300% damage, but in this final phase they have artifact overdraw and it's 400% damage with their physical attacks. So I take no joy in killing the people who are in our teaching raids. Like, I can't emphasize enough, like, I'm not trying to troll these folks. You know, I just want them to see, like, this is the time to experience this stuff. You know, so that you don't go into a pug and be like, oh, damn. You know, I don't want anybody to join a pug and be like, Voodoo didn't teach us this, or Voodoo didn't explain that, or, you know, remember, I want you to get on the artifact when it's destroyed. In fact, the whole raid group, you know, except the 2 tanks, everybody, High Lords and everybody, let's have a big party at the artifact when it goes down, and we'll see who's alive and who's dead. What kills you makes you stronger. Remember, no dragon DPS during this part of the raid, please. I'm not standing up here because it's any kind of like safe spot. It's just a convenient spot to stand. Everybody get within kissing distance of the artifact. I don't know what round we're on or how much damage it has left, but I want everybody to be on it when it explodes. And just to demonstrate, you know, even the dragon's doing a lot of damage, but, you know, like I said, that's not a safe spot. I want to show you that, you know, as a tank, I can stand up to these hits. Artifact, artifact, artifact. Kissing distance. Oh, it wasn't ready to go down yet. Maybe the next town. How much damage did it have left? How much life or health?
50%.
Oh, damn. We still got a ways to go. All we're doing now is we're going to destroy the artifact, then kill the dragons, and it's over. Any questions about Fire on Thunder Peak? Any questions for anybody watching? Any questions about either of these raids that we did today as teaching raids?
This might be the last round we need on the artifact.
Alright, everybody on the artifact. You can see the force field's up right now. That force field, the force field is it's just timed. It comes down after like a minute or whatever. And this is with 375 PRR, 282 MRR, 330 armor class. I don't have true tank numbers. I'm like a funny warlock, medium armor wearing tank. Because I'm weird and I always got to do my own thing. Even if it's not optimal. But I, you know, when I'm in my guild, we don't do raid difficulty pushing. We just do like, you know, legendary hard raids. So, you know, most of the time, you know, it's fine. Artifact, artifact, artifact. Get close to it. Boom! Onadair got killed, but Fluter survived. Alright, kill the dragons. Doesn't matter which one you do first. Notice they drop to 10% health. North is dead. Good job, guys. Congratulations on your first fire on Thunder Peak. If you have any questions about either of these raids, let me know. And if you think of questions after the fact, well, you know where to find me. I'll be on DDO stream until 4 p.m. Eastern. That's about another about another 20 minutes. Good luck on your loots. There is an item in here that can be turned into a Soulforged Augment. That is the Deathek Runestone Shield. It can be Soulforged into a augment that gives the Runic Revitalization ability.